the meeting. And if everybody could put their mute yourselves because the button's missing on my end. So welcome everyone to May's member meeting. I'm happy that you're all here. As you know, my name is Dawn Kovalevsky and I am the PPF president this year. For those of you who do not know me, and there are some here that are actually new. Okay, before we get to the fun stuff, there's a couple of announcements. One of our members, Michael Bryan, wanted me to let you know about an event titled Nostalgia is So Yesterday. And his wife is performing in this production. It's an evening of funny stories, poetry, and photography on June 1st, 7 p.m. at the Old Church. And I am putting a link up in the chat if you want to check it out. And there it is. Okay, next up, Walter Oliver is in charge of Blue Sky Committee for PPF. Walter, would you please talk about the new exhibition opportunity coming up, please?
Will do. In charge. That sounds so highfalutin. Good evening, everyone. We again have the privilege of a PPF dedicated exhibit on the library wall at Blue Sky. It'll be in the month of October with an opening on the first Thursday. There's limited space on the wall, so this will be a juried show with a theme of environmental portraits. Stay tuned for details to be announced soon.
Great. I know we talked about this and it's going to be so exciting. So you'll see more details in the June newsletter. And then you will also get a separate message for July 1st. And that is when your entries begin. So you have a month to, I believe it's a month or two to put your images in. I can't remember the dates. I don't have the details there. But that's when you enter, and it will be a blind juried. So we won't know who you are, and if we have to go that route, it just depends on how many people. So this is really cool, and Walter's been working really hard on this, and so I am excited about that. So as far as any announcements go, I think that's it, unless there's some board members that something came up that they wanted to talk about. Anyone? No. Anybody else? Okay, that's cool. Okay, so it was really fun to see what members came up with for the ICM photo challenge. So let's get started. The slideshow is about 13 minutes. And so you could just sit back and relax. Oh, I got to share the screen first. Sorry. Is it being a total dork tonight? Okay, here we go. Okay, there it stopped. Sorry about that. Wow. Okay, so as you can see, next challenge is your favorite subject. So that means we're going to have all kinds of pictures in there. And I'm not going to police them too much, but keep it clean, whatever your favorite subject is. So anyway, we're going to see a huge variety, and I think a lot of people have an opportunity to enter this challenge. So getting on to our evening. So first up is our 15-minute speaker, Johanna King, who is going to show us some of her wonderful portrait works. So Johanna? You're muted if you're speaking. Oh, there you are. You need to unmute. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Now, it's not quite working as smoothly as it was supposed to, but let's see. I want to share my screen now.
There we go.
Oh my gosh, it worked. There's all kind of stuff in the way, but let's see. You can see that one shot?
Yes.
Is it full screen or not? No, I want to go to, let's try
It's not full screen. You have to hit the green button on the upper left corner.
Well,
I don't know where it is.
when we practiced, I just pushed the F key and it worked. But that doesn't seem to be doing anything. Let's see. Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
All right. Now I can't see you. All I can see is my screen. Is that okay?
Yes, that's which.
Right. Okay. So I have loved portraits forever. I took this shot when I was 14 or 15 years old. And it has the two things that I really want to see in my portraits. And one of them is narrative. I want there either to be narrative or I want there to be an emotional hit in my portrait. And this one, I think, kind of has both. And I love it when they do have both. These were my girlfriends. We were out roaming the wilderness as teenagers and having a great time. And I developed this in the bathroom, like many of us did when we were kids. Headshots. I love headshots. I really want, I feel like they give you that emotional look. Either it's the emotion you see on the face of the subject, or it's the emotion you feel when you look at it that I like. I really like black and white. Look at this guy's eyebrows. What a grump. I feel like you don't have to have eye contact to get that emotional hit especially from a headshot. And you don't even need it to be sharp. I love this photograph. And then sometimes I like to have not a headshot, but something with a little bit of context. And this guy is, I don't know, sort of full of himself, but interesting at the same time. This is a woman that I saw in, obviously in Mexico during a Day of the Dead. Everybody was dressed to the hilt. This is one I showed at print share the other day. And this portrait has enough context so you get a real feeling from this guy, how he feels, what he's interested in, what direction he's going in. This woman is 100 years old. This is the day after her 100th birthday. And she's still busy in the kitchen. I like the context. This guy, if you've ever been to Australia, you've seen lots of these guys. They love those hats, and the dirtier and the more messed up they are, the better. There's another Australian guy with really wonderful hats. Sometimes you're at the right place at the right time. So, Dawn, are you hearing me okay?
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you. You're doing
Okay,
good.
good. So sometimes you're at the right time. If anybody who's ever been to Japan, you know how difficult this image is to get. You see lots of geishas in shows and performances, but you rarely find one out on the street just waltzing along. Sometimes you see somebody that you just think is so gorgeous. I took this on the subway in New York City. I think this is a beautiful person. I love this guy's laugh. This girl was not dressed up for any particular occasion. She apparently dresses this way pretty much every day. She's a waitress in New Mexico. This kid has a beautiful head of hair, but he has that teenager look, doesn't he? I love taking pictures in museums and places, and you see wonderful costuming that people wear. I like the shadows in this too. Even though you don't even see the face of this person, you still are able to tell a little story about her. This, some of you know what this is. This is the eye of a bowhead whale. And that little guy is the son of the captain who captured the whale in Utavik, Alaska. This beautiful person is over 80. I spent a long time talking with her. She's German. She's a ton of fun, and she really enjoys the sun, as you can see. This young girl, I did not speak to her, but I was just completely taken by this costume. It's a slip. She's wearing a slip as a dress. And I'm telling my age, I guess, when I think that is really strange, but I love the image. And I couldn't resist this, is in the basement of the building I live in. And some of you know that I like to do animals. So this, I feel like you need the eye contact with an animal to get through that. You really get an emotional hit when you see that. You see into the eyes and into the animal and into the shared reality. Taking two people together is a big challenge. This is one of my absolute favorites. A lot of things missing in this. It's not perfectly sharp. I don't have the glints in the eye. Nevertheless, I really like this. This is another, I took this in London in the metro. I have loads of metro pictures, and this is one of my faves. Japan is a great place to take portraits because people are very happy to have their picture taken. They're not shy about it. They're not embarrassed by it. And they're very generous about it too. This is one of my favorites. You really see that connection between these two women. This is a very old picture taken in the late 60s. I like it, in Ethiopia. It's another one. The contrast between this couple, they're kind of guarded, let's say, very guarded compared to the other two, the last two, who are so open and joyful. These people are very guarded, beautiful nevertheless. This is a shot I recently took of two quite famous musicians, Carrie and Dorothy Lewis. And I think it's sweet.
Mhm.
And this one I showed last time at Print Share. The emotional connection between the two is so dramatic. And then there's the wonderful world of selfies. I think the portraiture in selfies can be really interesting. I like this shot. It's I love it. I've always liked this shot too. You can do so many interesting things with selfies. I once saw a show in London entirely selfies, starting with a Rembrandt self-portrait. This tells a lot about me. I'm the subject. I'm taking the picture. I'm the shadow in there, and I'm a real natural history nerd, as some of you know. And then I have this project of portraits that are kind of poorly titled Then and Now, but the same people at different points in time. The bottom photo is usually the most recent, is always the most recent one in this series. I have dozens of these, mostly friends and family, but sometimes people I don't know that well. But all these are people I've known all my life, pretty much, and all their life in the case of the younger people. And then this is my latest project. I'm working on a collection of portraits of old people. I'm trying to get 8 in their 80s, 9 in their 90s. I don't know if I'll get 10 and 100, 10 over 100 or not. This person is 95. And one thing that I find so interesting about these portraits, they're all people I know, and so they are for the most part fairly relaxed and fairly easy to photograph. But you look at this person and you can see back 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years into what this person was like as a young person. She's 88 and she has a fabulous art collection. It's a big part of her life. So I wanted to have that color and that big piece of art in the portrait with her. This is a birthday picture. She was so surprised. Her daughter surprised her at a public event with a birthday cake. And I caught her just at the moment she spotted the birthday cake. This person is 93, I think it is, or 4. And she's almost blind. And you'll see her again in a moment. This person was one of the people that it was a little difficult to photograph. She was rather self-conscious. I took lots and lots of photos. And then when she picked up the kitty, she became more relaxed.
Mhm.
She's 100 years old on the day this is taken.
5-minute warning, Johanna.
She's 90, and she must have been a stunner when she was young. She's still a stunner.
Mhm.
And this person is 93. And this is my current fave. And that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna try and figure out how to get out of sharing now, but I'm not quite sure how. Let's see, I do that. And then
Should
I'm
be at
gonna
the top of your
stop
screen.
share.
There you
Yeah,
go.
all right, we did it.
Those were wonderful, Johanna.
Thank
I
you.
just love seeing all your work. You've traveled so many places. And
Oh, well, yeah, I have traveled a lot, but I wanted to first I thought I was going to find my best portraits to show. And then I pretty soon realized that was a hopeless task. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Of course, everybody does, but I have loads of portraits spanning all those years, not even counting the years of slides where they still aren't accessible.
Well, I expect you to enter the exhibition for Blue Sky. Because the topic is portraits. It would be
Portraits,
perfect.
yeah.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Johanna?
Well, I want to make a comment. I'm really looking forward to the project you're working on right now with the 80s, the 90s, and the 100.
Yeah.
That's incredible. They're beautiful portraits, Johanna. I really enjoyed them.
Well, I'm in a perfect spot to get them.
Yes, you
right
are.
now. Mhm.
Yes. What a great project.
For the rest of you, just to let you know, I'm living in one of these old people's places, the Mirabella Tower in Portland.
Oh, Johanna, I appreciated seeing the senior women, especially because there's so much plastic surgery now that I just felt like those women were so authentically beautiful, and it's really becoming harder. I see so many changes from how someone looks, and I just felt like those women, I could kind of somewhat tell that they hadn't had work, and so I'm excited to see your project too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Thanks. Thank you for the opportunity to show these. I really enjoyed preparing, and I enjoyed sharing.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really, really glad that you did this. I love seeing your work. I know we all did.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we are on to our guest speaker tonight, Raina Stinson. She is an internationally award-winning photographic artist known for her evocative storytelling through imagery. She's originally from the United States, and she has spent the last 7 years in Provence, France. With a deep passion for visual narratives, Raina's work often explores themes of identity, resilience, and the human experience. So, Raina, I'm looking forward to your talk.
Just unmuted myself. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me, Dawn, and also Kathy for connecting me up with Dawn and bringing me into your group. I'm really excited about this. Is wonderful. I really enjoyed both slideshows. Joanna, your work is beautiful. Love your portraiture, and the slideshow was really cool for me to watch. I was like, oh, I would like to be a part of this group. However, I do live in France, and I happen to fortunately be in the United States right now because my daughter just graduated from law school. So I'm in Cleveland, Ohio right now. So actually, when I agreed to do the talk, I thought I can do it. I'll get up at 3 in the morning and do it. I don't care. I want to do this. This would be great. But fortunately, I'm in the United States. So I'm only 3 hours ahead of you. But so that's why it says Justine Berrigan. That's my daughter. So I'm on her computer. So yeah, so I guess I introduce myself and then we go on to presenting my images. So basically, I'm from Portland, Oregon. I don't know, some of your names look familiar to me, but I was born and raised in Portland, and I have been doing photography since I was 13, but it was basically my hobby through most of my life. And as a profession, I was a nurse, and I worked as a nurse for 34 years. And I would say probably the last, it's been about 7 years of my nursing career, I started really getting more seriously into photography and I took a course. I got my first digital camera in 2010 because I always shot film. I didn't know how to use it. And so I took a course at New Space. We all probably remember New Space. And from there, I started taking a lighting class, and it just totally changed my world in terms of what I was doing with my work. And it opened me up to something that I didn't really realize I had within myself. And so the last several years of my nursing career, I was just really burned out and wanting to just kind of transition out into being a professional photographer, which, as we know, is not an easy thing to do. And so so basically, I guess maybe I should move into the slideshow, because that sort of will explain more of, what do you think? Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
share my screen. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I was
Yeah.
muted, but
All right. I'm going to share my screen up. And then hopefully up. Yeah. Okay. Ali. Okay. Okay, here we go. Right. So basically, oh, what am I doing? Hang on. Sorry. There we go. Voila. So yeah, so basically what what had ended up happening is, I don't know, some of you may know Joni Cabana. Joni's a very good friend of mine. She was the one person I really started mentoring with. When after I took some classes at New Space, I took a class from her and I started mentoring with her. And she's the one I started encouraging me to submit my work. I'd never done that before. And so I submitted my work, and the first image that ever got into a show was this one here. And it actually got into Lightbox in Astoria. And that sort of like started this whole process of me kind of opening up to what happened to be inside of me, which I didn't realize was there. So what I'm doing is I'm going to kind of show you the progression of my work, and talk a bit about how I create my work. And so what I tend to do is I love to tell stories with my imagery, and I am really into, I love vintage styles. And what I do is I typically don't work with models. I work with people that I meet. And so I'm just inspired by a person, and then from that, things just start open up. So the way I shoot is very intuitive. I'm not a huge planner. So what I do, like for instance, this is one of the images that another one that I actually won my first international award, and I was in a show in Malaga, Spain. And this particular image was just kind of happened because my sister is a hair and makeup artist, and she had dyed her daughter, my niece's hair, and she had it kind of curled, and I was like, that looks like cotton candy. And she goes, yeah. I said, well, let's do a shoot. And so we created this set in her garage, and I just had like some tulle, and my niece came out dressed in this outfit. I brought a bunch of like candy and stuff. I just didn't really know what I was going to do. But what ended up happening is my niece, she's an actress, and she's really creative. And so it was just like this combination between my sister, my niece, and myself. We created these images. And it really, like I said, wasn't planned. It just sort of happened. And that's a lot of the way things work with me. I kind of gather things that I'm inspired by, and then I would just kind of throw them up and see what happened. And so this particular image is called Eye Candy, and it was in the show in Malaga, Spain. This is also another, so that sort of started this whole series of these kind of images, which the series I called Girls Just Want to Have Fun. And when I started the series, I really, like I said, I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that I liked vintage style. I liked these crazy hairstyles. My sister's a hair and makeup artist, and so we just kind of threw all this together, and it just ended up being a lot of fun. And I didn't really understand why I was doing it, other than I just thought I liked the fashion and I thought this was fun. But as time went on, I started realizing that there was deeper. And because I tend to work very intuitively, a lot of stuff after I do the work, I start realizing more what it means to me. And I remember I took a class from Blue Mitchell. I don't know if you probably, some of you may know Blue Mitchell. And I was working on this series, and he's asking me like what it meant. And I actually had no idea at that time. I was like, I don't know, I just like the colors, I like the vintage style, I'm just having a good time. But then he started asking these questions, and I started realizing that actually it had a lot to do with my childhood and my mother, you know, being kind of, my mother was born in, oh, she's born in 30, in the 30, like 38. And so she was in this whole thing about everything having to be perfect, and everything, you know, looking pretty, and yet underneath it, not everything was always so great. And there was a lot of, I actually struggled with an eating disorder when I was younger. And so I started realizing this actually had a lot to do with my expression of my own issues that I had around food, and around that whole idea of having to always look so perfect, and yet not wanting to look perfect. So so this particular image is called the Perfect Wife. And this was another image that won the award that ended me up in Malaga, Spain, in the show. And this is another one that was a part of that series, and that is called this is called Donut Madness. And this, if you recognize, these are voodoo donuts. And so basically, the way this shoot happened is the day before, my daughter and I were out vintage shopping, and I found this robe, I found the table, we found all these things, brought them into the studio, and then just kind of threw everything together, and this is what happened. Again, not really planned, other than knowing who I was going to photograph, and kind of like a bit about the hairstyle. I mean, I just basically trusted my sister and let her do the hair and makeup art on it. And then this whole thing just continued to be a thing. So I kept this theme, and several of these images have been, you know, in shows and galleries. And it's kind of, from when I was in Portland, this was sort of the thing that I was known for, is this kind of work. So just to give you a little bit of background, so like this show that I was in Malaga, Spain, it was the first international award I'd ever won, and I was like, oh, well, this is never going to happen again. I had this really huge imposter syndrome, and I thought, well, I need to go because it's never going to happen again. And so I went, and when I was going, I had just reconnected with a friend of mine from high school, and she was living in the south of France, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. And she's like, yeah, and why don't you come? You know, so since she knew I was going to be in Spain, she invited me to France, and I was there. And the first night I was there, I just had this overwhelming feeling that I had arrived home, and this is where I was supposed to be. And at that time, I was still working as a nurse, pretty unhappily, and I was also married unhappily, and I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I just felt like I needed to do this. And at the time, Joni was my mentor, and I told her, and she's like, Raina, do it. And I'm thinking, well, how am I going to do that? I have no idea, but I just felt like it was something I was going to have to do. So as a result, because my friend lived there, I went to France 4 times in over a 3-year period of time. And every time it just became more and more evident that I needed to just follow my heart and take this risk. And so ended up quitting my nursing job at age 57 and packing up 10 suitcases and moving to the south of France to become a photographer full time. So, and the reason I tell the story is that it's the photography that led me here. I don't know if I hadn't had these things and these experiences, if I had ever landed in France. So you never know what's going to happen. This is just another one of my from that series, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. This one's called Be Happy. This is another one. This is called Dying for Love. So I ended up kind of, as the series developed, I ended up kind of bringing in themes like Valentine's Day. This was Easter, and always kind of trying to do the styling, and my sister doing the hair and makeup on these. So it was a really great, like for me, a really great collaboration with my family. This one was a reaction back when Trump and Hillary Clinton were debating, and Trump called Hillary a nasty woman. And this is, I don't know if any of you might know him. This is Carla Rossi, a drag clown in Portland, a good friend of mine. And so we did several shoots together. And this was my reaction to Monsieur Trump and what he had to say about Hillary. And then this is an image that, another image that really kind of reinforced me going back to France. It was like 3 months after I had been in France and was in a show in Spain. I won this. This is an image that won first place for single image on a Lens Culture Exposure Awards, and that was in 2014, I think. 2014, 2015. And it was I was a total shock for me because at this point I was still working as a nurse and really had very strongly imposter syndrome and thinking that this is something that could this have happened? And so again, it brought me back to Europe, brought me in a show in London. And then at that time I also went back to France. So again, my images kept leading me back to France. So this is a series called Outside In, and it's all about, again, vintage style. This particular image was, the backlit is the actual sunset, and then in the front I had a strobe. And so that's how I balanced that light out there. But again, this image was not a planned image. I actually had a guy that I was working with. I had my whole plan was to have her and this guy kind of in the 60s style and them together in the car or standing outside the car. And it just wasn't working. It wasn't flowing between the two of them. And so I just was kind of like, well, would you just go sit in the car? And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it just, something just said, go put some lipstick on, and there it was. And I didn't even realize until I got home that I had this shot. So again, it was just kind of like being in the moment and allowing one to, when things aren't working, I learned that when things aren't working to step away. And oftentimes when I do that's when the best image comes, when I'm trying less, not trying as hard. And this one actually was taken in France. I think the second time I went to France, I had this my friend that lives in France is a hair and makeup artist, and so she worked with me on this, and we found the classic car in France, so it was pretty fun. And I brought the costuming, and I brought from the United States and shot that. And this is an image that, because I am really obsessed with vintage cars and everything vintage. I had went to a car show in um, Canby, and this woman here won an award for her car, and she was a single mom. When she was pregnant with her little guy, the guy left her. And so the way that she coped with it is she bought this car and just started learning how to restore it. She had never known how to do this. And she ended up restoring this car, and since has won tons of awards for this car. And I went up to her because I was really drawn to her, and the fact that these car shows were just like mostly men and older men. So I went up to her and just started talking with her, and I said, hey, would you ever be interested in doing a shoot with me? She's like, absolutely. And so again, it's like that idea of like being in the moment, being open and seeing what reveals yourself, and then allowing things to happen. And yeah, so she was great. And this image has been in some shows, as well as this one too. This one's called Rider, and I just this one again was, I had actually a strobe in the front, and so it was a combination of strobe and natural light. And this is actually the last work I did before I left for France, and it was the PDX squared competition in 2017. Yeah, 2017. And this won first place for, I can't remember what category it was even in, but this image won an award for. So that was the last bit of work that I did in the United States. And then interesting is when I moved to France and I left my nursing career, I thought, oh, I'm going to have all this time to create. And what ended up happening is I moved to France and I'm, learning the language, living in the middle of the country, in the middle of a vineyard, and there was no inspiration. And so it was really hard for me at first. But what I want to show now is that how my environment changing has changed my work significantly. So this is actually taken in the village. I live 10 minutes from this particular village, and these were this was the outfit is something I had brought from the United States, and this is a friend of mine's daughter, and I really love this particular work. She's since much older now, but I really loved working with her. And so there still is the idea of storytelling and the styling and creating working with environments, but definitely and still a vintage, the vintage aspect that I love. One of the things I love here in France is there's a lot of antiques, and I go to a lot of antique markets now and source things for shoots. And often for me, it's like I said, I'm inspired by something. It's, maybe like for this, actually, it was this dress I found. I really loved it. And I had it for quite a while. And then when I met my friend and her daughter that was that particular age and could fit that, I was like, all of a sudden the whole thing came together. I was like, oh, I would like to shoot her and put her in this outfit. And then as we wandered around in the village, I found these places that I wanted to shoot her in, but the whole inspiration started with that outfit. And then this is her as she's gotten a little bit older. And this is when the first house I lived in France I had a studio. And so this was working in the studio, and I basically blocked out all the light, and this was shot only with candlelight. So that's something that and I had a candle behind her to bring the light behind her, and then the candle in front of her. And this is the whole scene. This is my dog. When I moved to France, I told myself I was not going to get a dog, but within 2 months I bought a French bulldog. And this is Zoe, and she's been my little sidekick. Kathy has met Zoe. Zoe is quite the character. And this again was shot in the studio that I had, and all candlelight. And I really like working with candlelight. And these are antiques that I sourced. I have a huge collection of antiques and props in my home. And this actually is the very first house that I lived in when I moved to France. And it kind of just fell in my lap. I wasn't really planning on living here. I was planning on living in another village. And I was on this group of women that are in business in Provence. And I saw that there was an ad for this house in the middle, it's literally right in the middle of a vineyard. There's nobody else around, and this house is very rustic, and it was so amazing. And I ended up getting it. Turned out the person that was subletting it was also a photographer, and so they went ahead and rented it to me. So I lived there for like 18 months, and I had this whole idea. I basically wanted to create a series that was based on 18th century in Provence, and so I had been buying antiques and basically decorating the house for this so I could create a series. And then I ended up getting the owner passed the house to his son, which often happens in France. They pass their properties before they're close to passing, so that it protects them from large amounts of inheritance tax. And so I had to move. And originally the plan was I was going to be able to live there for about 3 years or so. And so as I was moving, this series came about, and it really was about initially my grief around the fact that I had to leave this home, which I really loved. And I knew that they were going to renovate it, and they were going to, oftentimes when they renovate these old houses, they take out the charm. And so I had a lot of grief around that. So anyway, that's what started the series. And this, these sheets were old sheets that I found that were like, some of them from 18th and 19th century, and you can see how they had been hand sewn and patches on them and stuff. And so I had used these sheets for actually an image I don't have in here right now, but I had put the sheets out to hang, and I just really loved the way the light and shadows on that. That was where I would hang my clothes. And so this is as I was leaving the house. You can see how rustic this house was. I had initially this it's an undergarment, basically a slip that I found at a brocante, and it was from early 1900s. And I had found it, and I had it for about a year, and I really wanted to shoot somebody in it, but I had no idea who or when or what. And I just happened to meet this girl who became a friend of mine, and she's French. And I asked her, I said, would you be open to being doing a shoot with me? She goes, sure. And so it turned out that this dress fit her perfectly, which was really amazing. And so anyway, that's kind of how this whole thing started in terms of how I styled it and who I ended up shooting. And this was in the kitchen. This was as I was leaving. Everything had been removed. And it was just kind of, for me, sort of like documenting what this place looked like and knowing that it was going to change. The light in here was amazing. I loved this house because the light, the way it traveled around the house was really quite amazing. And this, when I first shot this, I thought it was going to be in color, and then after I started looking at the images, I realized it absolutely had to be in black and white. This was the stairway, original. This house was almost 200 years old, and that was the original stairway. And I was really realizing at some point they're probably going to change that. And as I was going through doing this, I realized that there was a deeper issue there for me, and it was about my own process of this particular series is called Uncaged, and it was really about what I realized after, again, as I was doing this. I realized that this actually was my own process, and how I had to uncage myself in order to leave my nursing, to take a huge risk, and to change my whole life and move to France and try to become a photographer professionally, and which was very scary. And I ended up, leaving a marriage, selling my home, basically getting rid of most of my belongings other than my camera gear and some clothes and personal items. And it was really about my process of breaking free from a lot of things that were keeping me from wanting to do what I really wanted to do, and that was to live in a different country, particularly France, and to really be a full-time photographer and take that risk. And so that's kind of where interesting again, a lot of it was subconscious when I was starting it. And then afterwards, I started realizing what I was doing. And this is actually when I had to move from that house, and I ended up getting into another place. And this was actually in the front yard of the other place. And so that was like the ending part of this when I was working on the series. And so with this series, I always kept her in the same dress. For me, it was important that she had the same clothes on all the time. And this was and all of these particular images are shot with natural light. And interesting, like when I was in Portland, I mostly shot in studio, and I shot with strobes. Even outside, I shot with strobes. And since I've been here in Provence, the light is so amazing here that I really don't shoot with strobes that much anymore. I shoot mostly natural light. However, I still do at times, but all of these are natural light. And a lot of these things, these are antiques and letters and stuff that I found. This particular letter was written in the 1800s. And so I'm really, really inspired by where I am now and love it. And this was actually the door that the studio that I was in. And the studio was actually in these old houses at the barns are on the side and of the house. And this particular part was at the top. And this is the tree in front is a mulberry tree. And this particular room was really high ceilings because this is where they had silkworms. This is where they would create the silk with the silkworms. And they fed the silkworms with the mulberry tree leaves. And so anyway, that, and then as you can see, the whole house was surrounded by vineyards. So it was really an amazing experience to live there. And a lot of times I really like this particular image because I like the way she's looking, but I also like the layering that happens. I like to do a lot of layering in my images. And then this is that same location with her looking out. And this for me is I named it Le Liberation, so liberation, to be liberated. And that for me was my process of launching and letting go and kind of falling into the abyss, not knowing exactly how it was all going to work out. And it did somehow. And then this is just an example of some work that I did recently with another person just in my village. She's French, and I was really drawn to her and asked her if she'd be interested in modeling for me. And so she did. And this is an old undergarments that I found in the markets. And actually I shot it with somebody else, which I'll show you those images. And when I shot it, I had the person in water and it kind of ripped up, but I kept it because I thought, that'll work when it's ripped up. So, and it did with her. And this is to also show just like there's so many amazing places here to photograph. And I love the old and the textures. And so I'm really drawn now to working with going into environments and there's so many amazing spaces around here. And again, this was natural light. And this is the inside of that. This is an old, it's called a bori. They were dry stone huts, and they're all over in Provence. This particular one has been somewhat renovated, so you can see that there's some mortar in there. But when they were originally built, it was all built dry stone, and they were used for shelter for in the summer and also in the winter for the shepherds and the farmers and stuff. So you'll find a lot of these, and I love finding these and photographing people in them. This is what I was talking about. This is the other thing. I love finding spaces, and I like putting people in spaces. And this outfit I found in an antique market. And this happened to be another artist that I was at an artist in residency, and she was a painter. And I was telling her kind of what I did, my work I did, and she goes, "Oh my God, I'd love to wear these outfits and stuff." So this again was not planned. It ended up happening, and she was just super excited about being a part of this and wearing these vintage clothes. And where this particular residency was that I was at was an old olive mill. And so these were the tubs where they put the olives. And so I put her in there. And again, this is like a theme that right now that I've been kind of going through, and it's sort of like a pain and suffering that some of us women are going through, and just what's happening for women in general, I feel, particularly in the United States, and the oppression that is coming back. This was the press in there, and this was all shot with candlelight, and I did some ghosting where I had her walk out. It was a long exposure, had her walk out so that we could create this sort of ghosting effect. And I was just super loved. The first time I had been to this place, I had thought, someday I would like to shoot there, and turned out 2 years later when I went back, I was able to shoot in this particular spot. It was pretty amazing. And this was part of a pool that is there. And so basically, again, none of this was really planned. It just sort of we walked around, and I just was like drawn by shapes and textures and the motion of the water. It just kind of like, I said, "Hey, would you be willing to put your head under there?" She's like, "Sure, let's do it." So that's how that came about. And that water was cold. She was quite the trooper on that. And then this was her in the pool. I really wanted to kind of create some sort of interesting feel with that. Water was quite cold. It was amazing, just working with her and having her do this. I really love the textures and shapes on this. And this is something I did recently. Well, it's about a year ago. And this is actually inside um, it's for pigeons and birds, and it was a part of a castle in the village of Goult where I used to live. And I know the owners of this property, and that's their daughter. And so I asked them if they would be willing to let me shoot her and in their place, and they're absolutely. So this again was all natural light. No, actually, no, I did have a bit of a strobe. I did have a strobe, yeah, because it was pretty dark in there. And anyway, I love the shapes, the lines, and just again, this dress was something I brought from the United States, is an old gunny sack dress. And yeah, this used to be a part of the castle that was in Goult. It was the farmhouse of the castle, and it dates back to the 1400s. And this is at their property as well, another gunny sack dress that I had. And this is an old easel, which I was really drawn to. This is also a part of their property. You'll see a lot of here in Provence. You see a lot of buildings that were actually built into the rock, into the cliffs, and this was part of their courtyard. And these were her friends, and these were also gunny sack dresses that I bought from the U.S. So that is my work. And then what I wanted to also, Dawn, should I go for questions now and then
Yeah.
talk about the residency later?
I don't know. No, go ahead and do your residency workshop things, and then we'll just wrap up with the questions. and answers.
Okay, am I doing okay on time?
Yes, you're perfect.
Okay, good. All right. So when I first moved to France, and when I was living in that house that I showed you, I had this vision. I thought, I feel so lucky to be here. This is the most amazing place. It's the most inspiring place to photograph. I mean, everywhere you look, there's a set. It's just like, and the light is so incredible. And I was like, I really want to share this with other people. And so that house that I was decorating and turning into a set, which actually I forgot to tell you, ended up being a part of a movie that somebody was shooting. I met somebody and she was a producer for this movie and said, we need an old farmhouse. And she knew of this house and she knew I was living there. And so she asked if they could use the house for some scenes that they were shooting for a movie. And I said, yes. And so actually, the house ended up getting used for a movie. Anyway, so the idea was I wanted to create a residency. I thought I really want to share this and have artists be able to come and be able to experience this place and create and be inspired. And then, of course, that didn't work, so I had to move. And then I moved to another place that actually had a cottage, and I was working on it, turning it into a studio. And I was also going to create it into a residency. And again, a small residency, a residency for 1 or 2 people. And then COVID happened. And then it didn't happen. And then again, I had to move because the landlord passed the house to another person. So then I moved to another place in the village. And I was in the village, and then I had 1 extra bedroom, and I thought, well, I'll create it there. Well, it never happened. And then 2.5 years ago, I met a man and lovely Scottish man, and I met through friends. And we fell in love, and basically we just recently got married, and I've moved into his home, which is now our home. And the house is on 1 acre. It's a large house. Kathy's been there. It's a large house that also has it's a cottage. It's called a gîte in French. And it's basically it's a freestanding like apartment. and it's attached to the house, but it has its own entrance and it has its own space. You can feel like you're not, like there's really nobody else there. And it has 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, we have a studio, there's a veranda, and then our property, you know, we have a pool, pétanque, and it's just a really beautiful place. And when my husband's name is Dennis, and when he asked me to move in and stuff, basically at that time the Zeet was not being used for anything, and I said, what do you think if we use this for an artist of residency? What do you think if we use this property to do my workshops here? Because I've been doing workshops, photography workshops, since I moved to France, but always renting other places and doing them there. And he's like, great idea. So as a result, we started La Fontaine Artist in Residency. And this is the side of the house that has the gîte. As you see, it has its own private yard. It's a really beautiful, and our place is basically surrounded by farmland and forest. But we're also only a 5-minute drive to the local village and 10-minute drive from another city. And it's just we're located, like I don't know if you know like where Avignon is. We're about 30 minutes from Avignon. In terms of like Marseille, we're about an hour from Marseille. So we're really close to the Mediterranean, and we're really close to a lot of really beautiful hilltop villages. Very amazing, amazing space. So it's to show you kind of where I am, what the residency looks like. This is its own private entrance. This here, you'll see this is our drive-in, then our house is over this way. This is the inside. It's basically, I totally redid it and put in a lot of this stuff are things that I had found since I moved here. And since Dennis's house was totally already furnished, most of my stuff that I found was put in this place. So it has 2 bedrooms. One bedroom has a queen size bed. The other has 2 twins. And then this is our house, so this is on the other side. And then we have a really beautiful pool with a pool house. And so I'm really excited. I did a workshop last September with Fritz Leideke, and Kathy Reddy came. And it was a really beautiful, it's the first time we did a workshop actually at the house. And it was a week-long fine art portraiture workshop. And it's really lovely. And one of the things that my goal here is several things. One is to be able to, like I said, to create a really beautiful space for people to come and create. And it's a self-directed residency. So it's meant for one person or 2 people, and the 2 people have to know each other. So if it's somebody that wants to come with their partner, or somebody wants to come with their friend, you know, or they want to come alone. So anyway, so you have control over who's with you. And as a photographer, I mean, it's for all kinds of artists. So I have a writer coming, and I've had photographers come and painters. And so it's really you don't have to be a photographer, but if you are a photographer, there is a studio, and I have all kinds of photography gear. I have strobes, light boxes, reflectors, tripods, everything. So, and then also I do mentoring as well for people that want that. And then just to kind of give you an update on what I'm doing this year, I am offering a conceptual photography workshop that is going to be led from our house. And the idea also with it leading it from our house is that I'm only having 4 to 5 people at the most. And for me, I find that I prefer to teach in a smaller group. I think that it's better for people to be able to get more time for shooting, more time with me, more time just in general with each other. But the other part about the workshops is it isn't just like the conceptual photography workshop is a little more like serious photography. Because what I do is I actually have a designer from Paris that's coming down that makes amazing robes, and she's going to be here bringing her robes, and we're going to have opportunity to shoot her robes. And also I have these beautiful spaces that I'm going to be able to, that I'm going to bring people to be able to create images. This particular workshop, I'm going to be teaching people how to tell stories, how to work, how to create a concept, how to use props, how to style, so it's going to be a really exciting workshop. But the other part of it is that you get to experience Provence. It isn't just we're hardcore photography. We also get to go and experience and go to places that you may never be able to have seen if you came as a tourist. So I take people to places that are friends of mine that have really amazing places. Kathy experienced that with my friend Pierre Francois, who has an amazing Bastide, and we got to shoot in his house, which was absolutely stunning. So that's kind of that. And then also the autumn one I'm doing is more, that one is not teaching conceptual photography. It's more like travel photography. And it's also, again, experiencing Provence. So you're getting to experience all these different villages, eat amazing food, wine, look at some other artists around, and then also be able to photograph. And with that one, it's really, it's anywhere from beginners to advanced photography. Can be working with the DSLR, working with your mobile phone. So, and then with all of these workshops, what I do is I teach mindfulness. So I bring in the concepts of mindfulness and how to slow down, how to listen to your heart, how to follow a feeling, and how to kind of let go and allow a bit more, which is the way I work. So, and then the next one I'm going to be doing the conceptual photography and the autumn one in 2026 as well. But this next, right now, what I have up on my website is for next in 2026, there'll be a summer in Provence lifestyle with lavender and shooting lavender and doing a photography tour. So, sorry, I'm hoping I'm not talking too much, but.
No, I just thank you so much for showing your beautiful work. Oh my gosh,
Thank
I
you.
love it. And I know your photography workshops must be so incredible, from the pictures I've seen. So anybody have any comments or questions for Raina about her work or anything?
I do. Am I on? I need a
Yes.
whole hour. I need a whole hour to talk about my experience in Provence with Raina. It was so magical. And seeing those pictures and reliving it, I got goosebumps all over. I'm serious.
Yeah.
It was probably one of the most exciting workshops I've ever done. And the places that you got us into, and it was magical. And you're so creative. And I've learned so much from you. And it was a reminder tonight how wonderful that workshop was. So creative. And I can't say enough. Just
Thank you,
very,
Kathy.
very incredible. So it was delightful. You have a magical place, and you find magical places, magical people. It's like you feel like, you're in a dream. It's
Wow.
wonderful. So I could go on and on, but thank you. I'm so
Thank
glad
you, Kathy.
you agreed to do this, Raina. That was really nice. Thank you.
I appreciate you inviting me in. And like I said, I feel so fortunate to be where I am. And I still have to pinch myself sometimes. Like, I can't believe I somehow made it. And it's, I just really want to share it. And I really like to be able to share like the real Provence too, because you don't necessarily get that. You'll get that with me because I live there and I have all these really cool places that I've found and great friends. Pierre, come on, Kathy, right?
Oh, I know. I'm still dreaming. Pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Raina, I'm kind of curious, is like way back, like you were living in Portland, and so what was the draw to France?
Well, I've always had a thing about France since I was a kid, and I have French in my lineage. And so I studied French in high school and a bit in college. However, I couldn't speak French that well when I moved here, but enough. And so it was really like, it honestly was like going to Spain and then having this friend of mine and I'd never been to France and I'd always wanted to go, and just to have that invitation, and it truly was an experience. I literally, the first night I was there, we were in this flat in this village called Ile-sur-la-Sorgue, which is about 10 minutes from where I live now. And I just opened up the French windows, looked down this petite rue, little road, and my heart opened and I started sobbing, and I felt like I'd never had that experience before in my life. Like I was supposed to be here. Like I had finally arrived home. And at the time I was there with my ex-husband and he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I feel like I'm supposed to live here." He's like, "Well, we'll make it work." And I'm thinking, not with you. I just not with you, but I didn't say that to him. But it was a very deep, like coming home experience that it's very hard to explain, but it was really deep. And I had been yearning for a long time to like leave my nursing career and try to just do photography full time, but I really had no idea how I could do it because I know it's not an easy thing to do. But I could see it as the more I went to France, because I had this friend, I had a place to go. So it was very easy for me, financially to keep going back because she had a car that let me use, she had a place I could stay. And every time it was just more and more difficult to leave. And so I finally just took the leap. It was a huge leap of faith. And leaving my nursing career early, I didn't have any kind of, monthly income. I was just took my retirement and said my 401k and said, well, let's see if we can make this work. And fortunately it did. Don't know how it did. So that's
Good
how I
for
ended
you.
there. Yeah. And now, I mean, I now have 10-year residency. I have a business in France, a registered business in France, and I'm seeking my nationality. So never to return. I mean, I returned to the US because my family's there and from Portland, but I don't plan on living back in the United States again.
And so are you like an EU citizen then, or
I'm a French resident, so I have residency. So I have a 10-year residency card, and which then now allows me to be able to apply for nationality. So yeah, once I get French nationality, I'll be an EU citizen. But that takes a couple years. I'm in the process now of applying.
well, good on you. Good on
Thanks.
you for living your dream. I mean,
Yeah.
I think so many people like want to do that and then, oh gosh, it would be so nice, but yeah.
Yeah. I think, that's why I like to tell my story is because I mean, I didn't have like a lot of money and I just really went on faith of that this is what my heart, I felt like if I didn't do it, I'd regret it. It would be something that I would regret on my deathbed. I'd be like, you didn't do that. And so I went, yeah, it was scary. I had moments of like, what am I doing? Um, and but I did it and it did work out. But it hasn't been without like, moments of fear for sure. What am I doing?
I
I'm
have a question
Oh,
about the buildings. I'm an architect,
Yes.
so I hone in on historic buildings really easily. How how much of that old, like you mentioned the dry stack, how many buildings are there? How common are they around there?
Oh, there's a lot of ruins like that.
Okay.
There's some places like there's this village called Gord, which is like rated the most beautiful village in the Provence, and they have actually renovated a village. So there's some of them that have actually been renovated. I prefer actually to photograph the ones that are in ruins or falling apart. That's just me. But yeah, there's quite a few. And how those happened is in the 1800s, a lot of people, there were more people moving to the south, and there wasn't enough land to create for agriculture. And so
Yeah.
the government gave the people the land, and the land was full of stones. And so they cleared the land and the stones, and as they were doing that, they needed shelter, so they created these dry stone huts, and there's whole villages that they created And in the village that I lived in, now I live in Velleron, but I lived in Boult. And there's many places where you can actually hike and find these old ruins, like little villages of ruins. But you'll, as you go through Provence, you will see like in the countryside and in the vineyards and in the land, you'll find these little huts, and they're all different sizes. Some of them you can settle in, other ones you can stand in. But I love them. I love to photograph in them. And yeah,
That's cool.
I love finding all these really funky places, and yeah, it's amazing. There's so much there. It's just mind blowing. I mean, everywhere you go, it's just like,
That's neat. I'd like to see that.
yeah, yeah, it's amazing.
Raina.
Yeah.
So number one, how did you meet your husband? I may have missed that. And then two, what do you miss the most about the United States?
How I met my husband was through friends. A friend of mine actually.
That's right.
Yeah, we have friends and they were doing our olive harvest on their property, and my friend said, "Oh, you should go," and I'm like, "I don't know." And then she was like, "No, you should go," and I thought, well, okay, it'd be cool to take photos, and so I'll go and I'll do some photo, maybe make a reel of it and put on Instagram. And so I went and I ended up picking, and then as I was leaving, I had met my friend, had another friend that I knew of, but I'd never met her. As I was leaving, she goes, "Oh, wait a minute. know this guy." And his wife died. He was married for 42 years. His wife died actually of COVID, which is quite sad. She also was ill before, but yes, she died of COVID. And she said he the night before he had mentioned to her he's decided that he's starting to be open to meeting somebody. She goes, "I think you guys would connect." So we met and we connected, and voila, we're married now.
Voila.
Yeah, he's Scottish, Scottish French. He has French nationality as well. So yeah, it was totally a surprise because I was at a place in my life where I was like, I'm fine. I have a good life. If I find somebody, okay, I'm not looking, it's fine. If they come to me, maybe I'm open, but I never figured I would ever get married again or live with somebody. But I guess never say never.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and then just everything is opened up differently. Like I feel like I'm living all these multiple lives within this life. That's pretty amazing. What was the other question?
What do you miss from the United States?
Customer service. It's true. That's about it. Well, I miss my family. Like right now I'm here with my daughter. It's amazing. I'm
Does she
really.
mind? Does she mind? I mean, I have 3 adult kids and you're living my dream. So
Yeah, well, actually, the third time I went to France, I brought my kids because I got hired to shoot a wedding there, and I brought them, and when we were there, they were adults. Every time we got a little rosé in us, they were like, "So, Mom, when are you going to leave Scott and go live your dream and move to France and quit your nursing job?" Literally, my kids, because this was a second marriage for me, so it wasn't their father, and they weren't so keen on him, and so. It was actually, yeah, they were the ones that really encouraged me to follow my dream because I had always told them to do that, and they're like, "It's your turn."
that's so beautiful. Thank you
Yeah,
for
so
sharing.
yeah, so I mean, I miss being able to reach out and touch them all the time, but I try to come back at least once a year, and then bring them over. But yeah, that's the only part is my children, my family. But yeah, they're adults and they're doing their life. My daughter just graduated from law school and she's doing great. And yeah, so but the customer service, I'll tell you, the French are not very good at customer service. It's like, c'est pas, they're like, it's not my problem, it's yours. I don't know. I'm not helping you. So whenever I come back here, I'm like, oh my God, they want to help me. Okay, this is so great. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
I've got a kind of a technical question.
Sure.
In the early series, your images have kind of a poster look, a very art poster look, but your later ones are completely different as far as the processing. And I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about how you changed your processing.
So the earlier ones, there's not a lot of processing done on that. Really, it's lighting in the studio. with a little bit of processing with, well, actually some of them I did a little bit of, changing the saturation.
Mhm.
But there's nothing in terms of photoshopping, there's nothing done on that. It's all basically what most of it was done in camera, in the studio. And so, yeah, just mostly your basic kind of adjustments, but nothing major. And then the first series of the little girl, when I went to France, that actually I took pictures of textures. There's so many amazing textures and colors on the walls here in Provence. And so I took pictures of the textures, and then I overlaid the textures onto the photo. So that's what gave that antique-y kind of look, was it putting an overlay. And that's the first time I'd ever done that before. I didn't even quite know what I was doing. And then the other images are basically just the other ones that I showed. There's nothing other special done in terms of overlays or anything. It's more about the light and then maybe some adjustments, but nothing in terms of Photoshop or anything. And it's
Well,
different because you're looking at natural light versus studio light. And
yeah, exactly. That's just what I was gonna say.
I
I
think
think it
that's
must be
different
the
because,
lighting. Mhm.
yeah, it's the lighting, because the lighting in the stuff that I did in the US is mostly always with strobe,
With
even if it
strobe.
was
Mhm.
outside. It
Yeah,
was, I would do natural and strobe. Where now here in France, most of that, all of what you saw
it's natural light.
is natural light. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is it. That's what I
Yes,
was
it
noticing.
totally makes the difference. Yeah.
Mhm.
Did that, Raina, did that change with the light, which is so frustrating for me as somebody who would wishes I could be a photographer, but the lighting and learning lighting here that's like the end all. Did it change, like just open everything up for you as an artist in a way? I mean,
Oh,
it's the natural part, the it's like more authentic, to me.
yeah.
I don't like post-production. I don't like all that personally.
Yeah.
So I'm so moved by your work. It just, wow.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not, because I started with film, you know, I mean, I took like darkroom class in high school, and then in college, I shot for the paper and I worked in darkroom. And so so my background was film. And so I was a holdout for digital camera. I didn't get my first digital camera until I was in 2010. And so I didn't know even how. I always shot manual. I didn't know how to any of that. I was like, what? What's this aperture priority stuff? And it was just like, and so for me, I still shoot manual a lot, mostly. And because of that, I think, I'm very focused on light, and I do but it's interesting because I learned the studio light when I took that class in at New Space, and in Portland, mostly I was doing studio light because it rains a lot. There's not, there is natural light there, but I just ended up really getting into the studio aspect of shooting. And it's interesting now as I've moving to France, and then in Provence, there's so much light all the time. I mean, it's like 300 days out of the year, no rain. And typically, except for this year, we had a lot of rain. But the light there is so incredible. And so I just totally dropped the use of strobes. And the only time I use them now is I do get hired. How I make money is I do the workshops, but I also do day photography tours, and I also do vacation photography. So I have concierges for different hotels and different rental services and stuff. And so I get hired to photograph families that come. And a lot of times the timing, they can't they're on vacation. And so, they want their portraits at 10 in the morning or something, and the light's terrible. And so I will bring my strobes then to fill. Because a lot of times, depending on where they want me to shoot them too, it can be really bad light. So I always bring them in case I have to use them. But for the most part, if I can, I'm going to be shooting natural light now. But fortunately, I know how to use all that gear in case I need it.
Anyone?
Did that?
Raina, I'm kind of curious. It's like you have feet in two different cultures, and you've moved from one to another, and obviously you're fluent in French, and so you can get by in that culture. And I'm wondering, how how that's changed you both culturally, like you as a human being, and then also you've talked a little bit about how it changed you as a photographer, about the light and that kind of thing. So those two things is like how it's changed you.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed me in a huge way, actually. Um, I living in France, there's the word être. The word être is to be. So like je suis, I am, être, to be. And the thing in France and the French culture is they're not so focused on working so hard that they have no life. They're more about I have a life and I work. And but my life is more important than my work. My work is what I do, but which actually sometimes is why customer service can be not so good. But I learned how to be more and how to and that's not like one of the things that I really love, and I think Kathy, you experienced this when you came, is that that's one of the things that I really want to bring to the people that come to be with me is to really learn how to embrace that whole energy of because there is an energy that's there that is just to be present, to be in the moment, to appreciate what's around you. I'm surrounded by beauty everywhere I look, and I mean we all are, right? But when we're busy and we're running around, we don't see it. And so I see things more deeply and experience things more deeply. Even just like food, having a meal is such a big deal in France, and it's like you make sure that you smell before you taste, and it's just like so I've learned like how to appreciate the small things, and I need less in terms of material things. I don't need to make as much money. I can live comfortably and happy the way I am. And so I really prefer that, and particularly I live in the countryside. So that whole countryside in Provence is so peaceful. And so yeah, I have a lot more peace in my life, more content.
One of the things I liked about when I did your workshop last September was when you started off the morning with meditation and relaxation, and you had your bowl that you spun around
Yeah.
the noise, and you brought us all together, and we were just set for the day. It was really a nice experience.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. That's the one thing that I really like is to bring that. I was a psych nurse actually for many years. So I did a lot of counseling. I taught meditation and so I interesting when I left nursing, I was kind of like, I'm done. I'm not a nurse. I'm a photographer. And I kind of like rejected almost that's part of me. And then I started realizing that you can't reject that. That's who I am. And I started integrating it into my photography and into how I teach photography. So yeah, I really, for me, it's really important to get people grounded and help them to just kind of like be present in the moment. And when you're present, you can really see things much more, and also to get out of your judgment, your mind, and to be more present. So like that whole thing I was talking about, like when I shoot, I tend to be more intuitive. I may have somewhat of a plan, but I also let it go. Like it's important to let it go because in the moment things happen and you need to be aware of those. And some of my best images have happened when I was not trying. And yeah.
I want to add something if that's I wanted to jump in. I've been dying to say something. I met you about 7 or 8 years ago.
Who's talking now?
My name's Ingrid, and in my what I like to call my past life, I used to do public relations in the arts in Portland.
Ah,
And you came and did a photo shoot for Portland Opera
oh right.
when I was doing PR there.
Yes.
And you showed me, I was racking my brain because somewhere in my house, I have a copy of it was a postcard that you gave me of the Dying for Love
Oh right.
image.
Yeah.
Which I kept it all this time because it struck me, even then. And, but I remember distinctly you telling me, your story that you were a nurse and a mom and that you were starting this photographic journey. And yeah,
Yeah.
kind of emotional because You
Wow.
really inspired me.
Oh, thank you.
So I have, after COVID, I quit my job and I'm starting my own journey.
Wow.
So I had no idea before I got on the call tonight that you were speaking
Oh, really?
until
Oh,
you said that you used to be a nurse. I was like, oh my gosh.
that hurt.
So for what it's worth, your words have kind of been there. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of things playing in my mind
Yeah.
that led to that, change of direction in my life. But your words played a really important role. You inspired me. So
Wow.
and I really
Wow.
liked getting to hear more about your work tonight. And everything you said really resonates. So thank you.
Wow, Ingrid, thank you so much for that. Wow. I that makes me cry actually.
Yeah. You just never know how a chance encounter is gonna
No.
affect somebody.
Wow.
So.
Bravo for you for following or you're following your dream.
Well, I'm in the early days, but still
Not always easy, but
no.
yeah.
But yeah, I often think about your words and your
Wow.
bravery and your journey. So
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Made my day.
that's so sweet.
Amazing how life works, huh?
it's crazy.
Yeah. I remember you. I remember that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That was for Artslandia, wasn't it?
That was, yeah.
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 Oh, that's awesome.
Wow. Amazing.
Does anybody have anything they want to add? Yeah, you guys need to be in touch.
Yeah. Take my oh, and if you I don't know, should I put my website down here or that if anybody wants to a link to my website in the chat or will it is there
Yeah.
something or is it in the newsletter? I can just put it in here.
It isn't. No, it's not in the new. I think it's on the website.
Okay, do you guys want it or
Let me see.
Yes, put it up, please.
okay. So let's see. I gotta say if I'm typing right. Can't see very well.
Oh, quick thing then, where were we talking about vision? Somebody
There it is.
it does, how like my vision is I'm 59. That affects my photography, unfortunately. Trying to see what I'm doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I'm getting ready to turn 65 here real soon. So
Is it affecting or is it
no.
it's okay.
No, it doesn't. No, not really. I mean, no, the only thing is I have to make sure I have computer glasses when I do my editing because I can't. I've got these transitional lenses and I've got the transitional ones on right now, so I'm like I didn't have my computer glasses on. Yeah. A bit like that, yes. But in terms of shooting, no.
Yeah, they want me to do that transitional. I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, computer glasses are the best thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I whenever I work on the computer, I usually have my computer glasses on because these transitionals, they just aren't that, it's just not that good. But the computer glasses, it's like, it puts less strain on your eyes too. I can spend more time on the computer.
Okay.
So my website's there. If you're interested, in anything, and if you have any questions you can send me a message. If you want to sign up for my newsletter you can sign up through so you can keep updated on things I'm doing. If you're interested in anything, let me know. Any questions as well, I'd be happy to answer after the fact if you have anything.
Well, I might have to go dig up some suitcases.
Yeah, well, I have space. I do have openings for my workshops this year that I'm offering this year, and also next year I still have openings. So, and then with the residency, I still have some space open on the residency. It's open right now. We have it till the end of December. We're thinking that we might open it, keep it open for the winter. We're just going to kind of see if we get requests. But the winter here is cold. But there's something really cool about being here in the winter. It depends on what you want to do. I've had some writers. I think for writers, it would be a really good time to be there. If you're wanting to shoot, winter's not, I wouldn't say the winter's the best time, as it's pretty barren in a lot of ways and cold. Lots of sun, but cold.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. I mean, I actually love the winter because I can wander. That's the other thing. It's actually quite good because I can wander around the villages and there's nobody around. So there's an
Yeah.
advantage for the winter as well. That's
Yeah.
quite nice. Yeah.
How does your Frenchie do? I have a French bulldog too. Is the weather okay? Not too hot in the summer
In the summer it's too hot.
for him?
I have to keep her in. Yeah,
Okay.
we have some air conditioning and we have stone floors, so she lays a lot on the floor. But yeah, with it gets hot. It gets up into the mid 90s, high 90s up to 100 sometimes, particularly in July and
Just like
August. Yeah.
here, that's like here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I just have to, yeah, I have to be careful with her in the summer. But she's a nutter. You have a French bulldog, they're nutters.
Oh, they are so special needs.
Oh my God. She's really healthy. She's very healthy. She has her own Instagram account,
Oh,
Princess Zoe of Provence. Yeah.
I'll check it out. Thanks.
And I do have a whole series of like during COVID, I started doing like live walks and stuff through the village, and Zoe's always following me, and I have some reels where Zoe's leading me through villages and stuff. So yeah, so on Instagram I'm Raina Stinson, and then I also have a Provençal lifestyle where that's more of just Provence. So I don't really put my fine artwork up there as much. It's more just like Provence. And then I have, of course, Princess Zoe of Provence. And then the artist in residency has its own Instagram account. It's crazy. I know I have 4 Instagram accounts, but it's a bit to keep track of. But yeah, Zoe, yeah, Frenchies are a special little doggy. You met Kathy, you know Zoe.
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness. Oh, a doll. So much personality.
Yeah, yeah. Stubborn
Yeah.
little thing, but yeah, she's great.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the same without her.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Oh, wait.
She loves the photobomb too. I have like a whole series of when I do portraits and stuff, when I've had some jobs, she always comes in and photobombs. So there's a whole series of Zoe with my clients.
And your husband took you in with the dog.
Yeah. He loves her now, but yeah, and he had a cat, or has a cat. His name is TC, Top Cat, and he was a feral cat from the forest that came in and became domesticated. But he is Top Cat, and he slaps Zoe around quite a bit. So
The alpha.
yeah, actually we had to hire a trainer to try to integrate them because Zoe is like, she thinks everybody's here to play with her, right? So she thinks the cat's to play with her, and the cat's like, no, I'm not here to play with you. And so we had to learn how to teach Zoe how to contain herself. And then she had to get whacked a few times from TC, and now they hang. They're okay. Mostly. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. I can't wait to
Yeah, you saw it, Kathy, the TC, and yeah. Yeah.
You want to keep that energy calm.
Yeah. Sometimes no, sometimes not. Yeah, sometimes Zoe gets a little bit wacko, but yeah.
Okay, any photography questions left? No? Okay, so
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
well, thank you so much, Raina, because your pictures are wonderful and your journey. And I know everybody enjoyed listening to you talk about your stuff in France. It's just terrific. I was really pleased.
Thank
So our next event is Print Share on June 2nd at 6 p.m., 6 to 8. You have to be a member if you want to show work, but anybody can come and watch it. And thank you, everyone. That's it. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.
Raina. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.